Spicy lady, breathe in slowly and exhale. This is your sacred space. No noise from the world, only the sound of your own power rising. You are not here to be light. You are here to become undeniable. Let every word you hear penetrate your subconscious. Speak them out loud. Claim them. Embody them. Your SpicyLady-Sigma. I am calm in chaos and lethal in clarity. My silence is not emptiness, it is tragedy. I move with quiet power and unshakable confidence. I do not chase attention. I do not seek validation. I attract what respects my frequency. I am highly selective with my energy. I no longer tolerate what my former self accepted. My boundaries are final. I do not negotiate my peace. I enforce it. I release people, situations, any words that disrespect my value, without guilt, without explanation, and without looking back. And Shadi.
Welcome, spicy ladies. Ruthlessness is not cruelty. It is the point where self-respect outweighs compromise. There comes a moment in the life of a Sigma spicy lady when everything changes. It is not loud. It does not arrive with anger or drama. It is quiet, subtle, and devastatingly precise. This is the final shift, the psychological turning point where patience, empathy, and kindness collide with repeated disrespect, broken promises, and emotional manipulation. What once worked no longer protects her. What once healed others begins to harm her. That is when ruthlessness emerges not as a flaw, but as a necessity. For years, she gives more than she should. She forgives too easily. She bends for people who refuse to change. She believes in second chances and shared history. And for a long time, she pays the price silently. Every boundary crossed, every apology ignored, every toxic pattern repeated teaches her an unshakable lesson. Generosity without discernment is self-betrayal. The final shift happens when she stops teaching others lessons and starts protecting herself. She realizes forgiveness does not require closeness. Empathy does not require exhaustion, and loyalty to herself matters more than loyalty to the past. She learns not everyone deserves access to her inner world, and walking away is sometimes the purest form of self-love. I end this video, we break down exactly what triggers this transformation, why it happens, and the subtle psychology behind her quiet, powerful shift. Watch until the end. Understanding this change will redefine how you guard your energy, your boundaries, and your self-respect. Let's get started. This is for every spicy lady. No. Point 1. She becomes ruthless when she learns reason with unreasonable people is self-harm. She becomes ruthless the moment she absorbs this painful truth. Being reasonable with unreasonable people slowly destroys you. At first, it doesn't look dangerous. It looks like patience. It looks like maturity. It looks like peacekeeping. But over time, it turns into emotional self-harm, disguised as kindness. That exhaustion is not weakness. It's your mind warning you something is deeply wrong. This is where the shift begins. She realizes logic does not work on people who thrive on chaos. Empathy does not soften those who profit from confusion. Explaining yourself to someone committed to misunderstanding you only teaches them how to push you further. She stops endless emotional negotiations. For her, ruthlessness is not aggression, it's precision. She chooses silence over arguing, distance over debating, final decisions over circular discussions. She stops saving relationships that force her to shrink herself. She learns walking away is often the healthiest response. To others, this shift feels sudden. They only see her stop explaining. They don't see the years she spent trying, forgiving, and compromising. By the time she changes, she's not angry. She's clear, and clarity makes her unstoppable. No point two. She becomes ruthless when empathy without boundaries equals self-betrayal. She becomes ruthless the moment she understands empathy without boundaries is not kindness. It's self-betrayal. For a long time, she believed her deep care could fix broken situations and heal difficult people. She thought patience and understanding would eventually balance everything out. But slowly, she realized her empathy was being used as an open invitation to take from her endlessly. At first, it feels noble. She listens when others tune out. She understands when others walk away. She carries other people's emotional weight to lighten the room. But a cruel pattern emerges. The more she gives, the more others expect. The more she forgives, the more toxic behavior repeats. Her empathy stops being appreciated and starts being exploited. Think of a friend who only calls when they need help. She answers every time. She stays up late listening. She puts her own needs aside, believing support should be unconditional. Yet when she needs the same care, the silence is deafening. That's when the truth lands. Empathy without limits teaches people your energy is free, public property. Her ruthlessness begins when she decides her emotional energy is not up for grabs. She stops over-explaining her need for space. She stops feeling guilty for choosing herself. This is not coldness. This is honesty. She learns empathy is meant to be a bridge, not a burden. Boundaries create a gate. She still cares deeply, but not everyone gets access. She no longer rescues people who refuse to grow. Protecting her emotional health is not selfish. It's necessary. A cup constantly poured into and never refilled will eventually crack. She chooses to refill herself first. Outsiders see a ruthless new version and miss the exhausted, unprotected version that existed before. She never loses her empathy. She simply starts directing it wisely. This is the moment she stops betraying herself and starts living with strength. Number 3. Her kindness ends when it becomes a testing ground for disrespect. Her kindness does not vanish overnight. It wears thin after being tested and disrespected one too many times. At first, she gives everyone the benefit of the doubt. She believes mistakes happen and bad days pass. She responds with patience because kindness is her nature. But she slowly notices a painful pattern. Her kindness is not being cherished. It's being tested. It starts small. Someone speaks to her carelessly and brushes it off. She lets it go. Someone crosses her boundary and claims they didn't mean it. She explains calmly and moves on. Every time she chooses understanding, she expects gratitude and change. Instead, people push further. People test kindness the way they test rules. They push a little, watch your reaction, and push harder if there are no consequences. Her silence becomes permission. Her patience becomes perceived weakness. She finally realizes most people aren't confused about her limits. They're curious about how much they can get away with. She's always been the peacekeeper in every conversation. She softens sharp comments. She adjusts her schedule for disrespectful people. She's the only one compromising and it's never returned. That's not harmony. That's imbalance. Her kindness stops being automatic. She no longer smooths over disrespect to keep the peace. She doesn't yell or seek revenge. She simply withdraws her warmth and access. Her kindness now has conditions. It's reserved for people who treat it with care. She learns kindness without accountability invites misuse. Respect only grows where consequences exist. When she responds firmly to repeated disrespect, people call her cold. What they're actually feeling is the absence of the free, unearned tolerance they took for granted. Her kindness didn't die. She finally opened her eyes and refused to erode herself for ungrateful people. No point 4. She doesn't harden her heart. She hardens her standards. She never wakes up cold or bitter. Her heart never turns to stone. What changes is quieter, yet infinitely powerful. She hardens her standards. And this single shift changes every part of her life. For years, she believed a soft heart meant keeping doors open, even for people who walked in with muddy shoes. She thought kindness required tolerating draining, unfair behavior. Every time she forgave without seeing change, she paid a small emotional price. Over time, those small losses stacked up. Hardened standards do not mean she stops caring. They mean she starts seeing clearly. She stops believing excuses and starts observing patterns. She stops trusting words and starts trusting actions. She understands one mistake is human, but repeated mistreatment is a choice. She used to cling to promises, wait for change, and hold onto hope. Now she watches and adjusts accordingly. If behavior doesn't shift, she withdraws access, not out of anger, but out of clarity. This shift brings her true peace. Her heart stays open, but it's no longer unguarded. She still feels deeply, but she no longer bleeds quietly for people who refuse to handle her with care. Standards become her filter. They separate who stays close and who stays distant. A hardened heart shuts everyone out. Hardened standards protect what's precious. She learns love without discernment is self-neglect. Care without limits is emotional waste. Outsiders see distance. They don't see the self-destruction she escaped. This version of her is present, clear, and intentional. She chooses quality over familiarity, worth over comfort. Her warmth now has direction. Her energy has boundaries, and her heart remains intact, stronger than ever. 0.5. She learns love does not require enduring disrespect. She once grew up believing love meant endless patience. That staying loyal meant tolerating anything, and walking away meant failure. So every time disrespect appeared, she excused it away. She blamed stress, bad moods, or hurt feelings. She stayed gentle and hopeful, even when she was being worn down. She confused love with endurance. Disrespect rarely arrives loudly. It sneaks in through cutting jokes, broken promises, being overlooked, being talked over, and being told it's nothing when it hurts deeply. Every time she swallowed her truth to protect a relationship, she taught others they could mistreat her without consequence. She used to accept empty apologies and reset every time. But she finally sees the pattern. Repeated mistakes with no growth are not struggles. They are tests of her tolerance. The turning point hits when she understands this vital truth. Love is not measured by how much pain you can endure. Love is measured by care, respect, and consistency. Without those three things, affection is just an excuse to stay attached. She stops arguing over basic human decency. She stops waiting for people to value her after endless chances. She creates calm, final distance where disrespect lives. This is not bitterness. This is maturity. Protecting her dignity does not make her unloving. It makes her honest. Love that costs you your self-respect is not love at all. It's fear and attachment disguised as devotion. People will say she changed. What really happened is she stopped confusing effort with worth. Walking away became her act of self-love. She keeps her heart open, but her standards firm. Finally, her relationships feel lighter. Her conversations feel cleaner. Those who respect her stay. Those who don't fade away naturally. She experiences love for the first time without losing herself. Number 6. Forgiveness does not mean continued proximity. Society teaches forgiveness is the highest form of maturity. To let go, move on, and keep the peace. For years, she believed forgiving someone meant keeping them close. She thought distance meant bitterness. So even after being hurt, she stayed available, kind, and reachable. The final shift lands when she separates two completely different choices: forgiveness and proximity. She can forgive someone without granting them access to her life. Forgiveness clears her heart and releases resentment. Proximity requires trust, and trust is built on consistent behavior, not empty apologies. She cycles through the same pain countless times. Someone hurts her, apologizes sincerely, she forgives, and the same mistake repeats. She learns forgiveness alone never changes toxic patterns. Staying close without growth only invites repeated harm. She creates a new balance. She forgives to sleep peacefully at night. She keeps distance to breathe freely during the day. This distance is not punishment. It's protection. Keeping someone close who has proven they don't care is not compassion. It's self-neglect. When she stops linking forgiveness with access, her entire world calms down. She no longer rehashes old wounds. She no longer hopes people will magically change. She adjusts her environment instead of fighting reality. This shift eliminates emotional chaos. She breaks free from hurt and repair cycles. She stops reopening doors for people who only knock politely to hurt her again. Forgiveness closes the emotional debt. Distance closes the toxic pattern. Others mistake her calm for coldness. They don't understand the peace that comes from choosing space over endless explanation. She is not angry. She is done. She finally learns healing does not require everyone to stay in your life. Peace begins when you walk away without hatred and without guilt. No. 7. Self-loyalty beats loyalty to shared history for a long time. Shared history felt sacred to her. Years of memories, late nights, inside jokes, and growth together made her believe she owed endless loyalty to people from her past. When relationships turned toxic and draining, she stayed patient. She clung to old goodness, reminding herself of how far they'd come. She feared leaving meant betraying their shared past. The shift begins when she asks herself one hard question. What is the value of history if it keeps costing me my present peace? She realizes shared history can be a beautiful gift, but it can also be a dangerous trap. It makes people tolerate behavior they would never accept from strangers. She forgives present disrespect because of past kindness. She overlooks current toxicity because of old memories. She was living in the past, ignoring the painful reality of the present. Many relationships feel this way. There's still laughter, but constant dismissal. There's still closeness, but endless exhaustion. She stays because walking away feels cruel, even if staying forces her to shrink herself. When the shift hits, she doesn't erase the past. She honors it, but refuses to let it excuse present harm. She learns loyalty never requires self-abandonment. Caring about what once was should never mean tolerating what now hurts. Choosing herself feels uncomfortable at first. Guilt and doubt creep in, but clarity always wins. She sees that people who truly love her grow with her, or let her go respectfully. They never demand she sacrifice her well-being to prove loyalty. She stops negotiating with memories. She makes decisions based on how she's treated now, not how she was treated before. Loyalty becomes a two-way street, not a one-sided debt she's forced to pay to others. It looks like a sudden break. In truth, it's long overdue alignment. She's not disloyal. She's finally loyal to the person who's always been there for her. Herself. No. 8. She stops giving second chances when patterns beat apology. She stops offering default second chances the moment she finally sees the truth. Patterns reveal character far clearer than apologies. At first, she believes people's words. She trusts their apologies, promises, and good intentions. She gives chances freely, hoping people will grow and change. For a while, hope feels enough, but reality eventually speaks louder than words. Actions repeat. Hurts resurface. Promises break in the exact same ways. Excuses follow apologies like a scripted routine. She realizes apologies are no longer expressions of remorse. They're just routines to reset the relationship without real growth. Words are easy. Patterns are not. Whether it's a coworker stealing credit for her work, a friend who breaks promises, or someone who repeatedly lets her down, the cycle is identical. Empty sorries, repeated mistakes, zero change. The shift is quiet but powerful. She stops negotiating her patience. She stops hoping for miraculous change. She stops giving the benefit of the doubt to people with proven toxic patterns. Second chances are no longer automatic. They become earned, not expected. This is not anger. This is self-respect. She refuses to let her emotional energy be a testing ground for other people's inconsistency. She holds no grudges. She just chooses clarity over repetition. She learns giving endless chances to unchanging people is not generosity. It's self-betrayal. Once she adopts this standard, her life simplifies. Her boundaries become firm and unshakable. People who value her adjust. People who don't fade quietly from her life. What feels harsh to outsiders is pure freedom for her. She stops reliving the same disappointments and starts living for people and moments that match her worth. No. 9. Ruthlessness is self-preservation, not cruelty. For years, she believed setting boundaries, saying no, and walking away from toxicity made her harsh, selfish, or unkind. She thought self-care was selfish and endless sacrifice was true kindness. She carried guilt for prioritizing herself until repeated disappointment opened her eyes. She saw that patient, forgiving people still get taken advantage of. She saw that bending over backward for others only left her own needs unmet and unheard. She finally understands self-preservation is not about hurting others. It's about valuing her life, her energy, and her peace. When she continuously sacrifices herself for ungrateful people, she teaches them her heart has no limits, no value, and no boundaries. That's not love. That's self-erasure. Protecting herself, even when it feels uncomfortable, is not cruelty. It's necessary survival. When this shift settles in, her healthy ruthlessness emerges. She no longer excuses harmful behavior. She no longer negotiates her peace for someone else's comfort. She no longer fears judgment from people who mistake her firmness for anger. She calmly withdraws energy, attention, and trust from anyone who disrespects her. Her actions are precise, intentional, and protective, never vindictive. She doesn't lash out, retaliate, or hold grudges. She simply refuses to let anyone diminish her worth, her boundaries, or her peace. Outsiders see severity. She sees survival. Protecting herself allows her to love fully, genuinely, and uncompromisingly for the people who truly deserve her. This ruthlessness is not darkness. It's the unshakable defense of her own dignity. No. 10. She stops negotiating her boundaries. They're final. For a long time, she believed patience, explanation, and compromise would earn her respect. She repeated her boundaries, softened her tone, and adjusted her rules, hoping people would finally understand and honor her limits. She negotiated for harmony. She negotiated for connection. She negotiated because she believed her worth defending gently. But a brutal pattern emerged. People heard her boundaries, but treated them as optional suggestions. They crossed her limits repeatedly, knowing she would explain, adjust, and forgive. Every negotiation chipped away at her energy and clarity. She finally learned the hard truth. Negotiating with people who refuse respect only trains them to push harder. An amount of patience or reasoning can force someone to value you. Respect is never bargained for. It's earned through your consistency. She stops explaining. She stops justifying. She stops negotiating her peace. Her boundaries are no longer up for debate. They are final. People who care about her adjust immediately. People who don't are quietly and decisively removed from her space. This is not anger. This is self-respect made visible. Boundaries only hold value if they are honored. Everything else is wasted energy and unnecessary emotional vulnerability. She stops teaching people how far they can push her. Instead, she teaches them how to treat her or lose her. After this shift, her decisions become clean, her energy stays protected, and her relationships grow healthier. She finally understands guarding her boundaries is not stubbornness. It's wisdom, survival, and uncompromising self-love. 11. She guards her sacred inner world. The final, most profound shift happens when she fully accepts one truth. Her inner world is sacred, and not everyone deserves access to it. For years, she opened up freely. She shared her thoughts, fears, vulnerabilities, and truth with anyone who pretended to care. She explained herself endlessly, hoping to find genuine connection. But she learned generosity of spirit without discernment is a trap. The people she let in too easily often brought chaos, judgment, manipulation, and betrayal. They exploited her openness and took advantage of her softness. She finally realizes her inner world is not public property. It's not an endless resource for others to explore, drain, and misuse. Vulnerability is not an invitation for exploitation. It's a privilege to be earned. From this moment on, she becomes intentional, not cold. She observes behavior before opening her heart. She shares only with people who have proven consistent respect, loyalty, and care. She trusts slowly, guards her energy fiercely, and filters everyone who enters her space. She doesn't close her heart or stop caring. She simply stops oversharing with the unworthy. This shift transforms every area of her life. Her relationships become deeper, healthier, and more genuine. Toxic people are kept at a safe distance. She finally feels the freedom and peace she spent years searching for. A spicy lady's ruthless shift is never born from anger. It is born from clarity, wisdom, and hard-won self-respect. This final transformation is not sudden. It is the cumulative result of years of observing, forgiving, compromising, and recalibrating. She becomes ruthless not because she wants to be harsh, but because she finally understands the cost of staying soft for people who don't deserve her kindness. Every ignored apology, every crossed boundary, every repeated toxic pattern taught her one vital lesson. Generosity without wisdom is self-betrayal. She learns to be reasonable only with reasonable people. She learns forgiveness does not require proximity. She learns self-loyalty outweighs old memories. She learns self-preservation is not cruelty. She learns boundaries are non-negotiable. She learns her inner world is sacred. Her ruthlessness is quiet precision. She protects her peace while remaining kind, intelligent, and intentional. She no longer participates in her own erosion. She chooses clarity over chaos, strength over compromise, and self-respect over false attachment. This shift turns her from a people pleaser into her own authority. It's a full psychological evolution, and the greatest truth? This ruthlessness is not a loss of heart. It's the emergence of her true freedom, unshakable wisdom, and unstoppable power. Thank you, Spicy Lady, for watching, and God bless you.